Hi everyone, my name is Mitchell Vieyra and I'm the Senior Program Director for BizFed and the BizFed Institute. And I'm excited to be here today to kick off our next half of the program. First of all, before we do that, I want to let everyone know to stick around because we have lunch right after this panel. And then we have some great speakers lined up for later in the afternoon. Our closing keynote is Los Angeles County Supervisor Hilda Solis, who will be joining us around 1 o'clock and speaking at the end of our program. So we're really excited about that. So everyone stick around for lunch, some great presentations and remarks from Supervisor Solis. I hope everybody has found today's conversations to be intriguing, and hopefully they've ignited ideas and solutions that we can collectively take from this summit to make actionable change, because that's the goal. You know, our hashtag today is #SolutionSummit, and so use that as you're tweeting and posting on Facebook for this event, pictures of the panel, clips that you might have. We really want to have that. Plus, at the end of this, we're going to be putting together highlight videos of all the panels and every speaker that's here today with us. So if you want to share that on social media after the event to let your colleagues know what we discussed and what type of solutions we came up with, that would be awesome. So please look out for that. I'd like to introduce our second panel moderator. Tracy Hernandez is the founding CEO of BizFed and the BizFed Institute. She's mastered the art of mobilizing those that might look different at the surface, but often have common goals. Today, she will be discussing the best practices of business, government, nonprofits as they work to narrow the flow of those going into poverty and homelessness and expand the movement of those coming out. Tracy, thank you for joining us. Please come up and introduce your panel.
Thank you, Mitchell. I appreciate that. Thank you all for leaning in. This is the fun part where we sit between you and lunch. You've been working really hard for a couple of hours, and now you're really going to wake up and lean in, because we're all about, the headline up there is Solution-Focused Summit. And that is my privilege to lead the panel that we're going to talk about from the various sectors working on this issue. What are the best practices to, and then this is what I want you to think about, challenge the norm and spur active solutions to these pressing issues? So I'm going to say it again. We're going to challenge the norm and spur active solutions to these pressing issues. And I can assure you at the end of this panel, these 5 people are going to light some fires in our hearts, in our minds, in our imaginations, and we're going to get right into it. So remember, use the QR codes at your table, because the bios of all of these individuals are definitely worth reading, definitely worth looking to connect with them offline. So that's where you find really who they're all about. But right now, let me just get started to tell you who's sitting up here at the table. From the academic community, we have Professor Gary Painter, who's the director of the Sol Price Center for Social Innovation. Gary, you guys do a wave. They can't read the name tents way back there. Believe me, I was sitting there going, I can't see who's on there, so give everyone a wave. All right, then we move from academia to business, and we're joined by Frank Gerardo of BYD, Build Your Dreams. They're an electric vehicle company, and they also produce personal protective equipment, and they're a manufacturer right here in Los Angeles County. So Frank, thanks. Then we go on to a homeless service provider, and we are excited to welcome Clint Carlton from the Dream Center. And the Dream Center is a resource center for housing, feeding, and educating people right in downtown Los Angeles. We're glad to have you with us. Thanks, Clint. Switching topics and sectors, we're going to go to law enforcement. And representing law enforcement, we have Lieutenant Jeffrey Diedrich from the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department. Lieutenant, thanks for joining us. And last, what's a space we haven't talked about yet? workforce development and homeless support field, we have Mark Loringer. He's the CEO of Chrysalis, which is an LA nonprofit changing lives through jobs. Mark, thanks for joining me here. We were just together in DC trying to work some common sense into our federal lawmakers. And you can tell we never give up, even though we fight tough challenges, we press on together. So thank you, panel, for taking time to be with us today. As mentioned, Mitchell told you that I'm the founding CEO of BizFed. BizFed's the LA County Business Federation. It's this crazy idea we launched in 2008, so really not that long ago. Seems like a lifetime ago in some ways, but 14 fast years. The idea was to not start another business group, but rather let's coalesce all the existing business groups into one federation. So together through diversity, all 88 cities in the county itself, every business group that's formed, whether it's a local city chamber of commerce, a business improvement district like you heard Suzanne Hawley runs, could be a trade association, might be like the restaurant owners or the realtors or the car dealers or the cannabis growers. They all have trade groups. Any women's business groups, Latino business groups, you name it. There's a lot of them out there working hard on behalf of people who employ people. And I heard some of the common threads come out earlier just on that last panel, talking about feeling kind of hopeless and frustrated because there isn't coordination among all the groups that are trying to solve homelessness and try to get people out of poverty. So that's kind of the genesis of BizFed in and of itself, is to provide a platform for people who want to make a difference civically. So we're specifically for business owners. Now we have 410,000 companies in BizFed, and they're showing up because they want to be civically involved. They want to be a part of solutions that help our economy work for everyone, not just some, but for all. At our 10th anniversary, it was 2018, we said we've done a lot in these 10 years, but what are we going to do for the next decade? We looked at some measurable actions that we leaned in on, and we looked around at our neighbors and our cities and said, we've got to do something different for the next decade. And so at that time, at our 10th anniversary, we kicked off an anti-poverty initiative. A business group of business groups said their number one thing for the next decade is to lift 1 million Angelenos, greater LA County area, 1 million people out of poverty in the next decade. It is not acceptable at the numbers we have. And at the time, there were 24% and almost 1 in 4 kids living in food insecurity and poverty. At the same time, our state at that time was, robust economic outcomes, and the richest of the rich were coming here. And we just said, we can't settle that. We've got to lean in. So hence why we care so much about today, why Kevin Harbour leading our BizFed Institute and Frank from USC, we just said we've got to do more, but we're solution oriented. So again, just to remind you what this panel is going to do, challenge the norm and spur active solutions to stem homelessness. So what I'd like to do is start with all 5 of you. I'm going to start with you, Gary. We're just going to go right down the line. In our world, if you're really going to lean in, you embrace success and you want to build upon it. You don't fear failure, rather you study failure. You have to fail or you're not trying hard enough. That's our view of it. So failure and success need to be learned from. So we want to learn from all 5 of you. If you could give us a specific success in your area of focus on fighting poverty and lifting people out of homelessness, and a crash and burn failure that you were a part of. Now, we're not going into dissertations, but we're going to learn from both sides of that from all 5 of you. Professor?
Sure, thank you, and thank you for the invitation to join. And Tracy, I will do my best to fulfill both your question and the goal to challenge the norm. I think we do need to challenge a lot of our assumptions, and if you don't mind me just saying a couple things before I get to your specific question, I think it is important to understand kind of like the world that we're operating in. So we talked about the safety net a little bit. Janie brought it up in her presentation. Who is the safety net helping, and who isn't it serving, and how much of a safety net do we really have? Those are questions I'd love to be able to answer for us as we go forward, but I won't do that now. What I want to do, and just I'll do a little caveat for those of us who are in, like I'm in the field of social innovation, rather than learn from failure, I just say I want to learn rapidly. I actually don't use the term failure that much as it relates to social innovation in contrast to kind of private sector innovation, because in some ways it's a different context for the work that's happening, but the mindset I think has to be the same. Right? We want to rapidly learn from things that are happening. And if we don't see progress toward the metrics that we have set in front of ourselves, then we actually need to readjust and rapidly go back to the drawing board, to co-design, to think about that. I'm going to talk about an area, to answer your question, Tracy, there's both been really strong successes, but also failures simultaneously. One of the areas that the business community definitely has to engage in and push forward on is how they are hiring people that have unstable job histories and understand kind of the source from which that has come. And it isn't equally distributed across race, gender, ethnicity in our country, and we can say more about that. What we know from our own research at the Price Center, working with partners, including partners like Chrysalis, is that people who are seeking employment that have had any kind of justice involvement, meaning they may have been arrested but not convicted, convicted but not incarcerated, or incarcerated, when they kind of apply for a job and a background check is done, right? They are going to, in many contexts, despite even laws that say we should not look at arrest history, despite ban the box kinds of laws and so forth, we actually know that those barriers continue and they influence someone's credit history, which makes their housing more precarious. It impacts their ability to be employed. And because of how we disproportionately stop, especially the Black population in LA, I know from data that we've looked at, it's about it's 2.5 to 1 compared to Latino populations in terms of stops in any neighborhood in LA, and 3 to 1 compared to white populations. So in that sense, we actually shouldn't be surprised just thinking about that one system. Why do we observe that there's a 3 to 1 ratio among the Black population being represented among those who are unhoused versus the overall population? So given that structure, what we have failed to do is we had the right idea, we need to do something about it, so we did ban the box. Okay, but just by doing ban the box alone, without learning rapidly, we saw some unintended consequences. That businesses, because they weren't able to access information that they said is important for their customer base, their employee base, and so forth, they actually started engaging in higher rates of discriminatory behavior, which is exactly the opposite of what the ban the box was intended to get rid of. And so to that end, what we've also seen is some early successes in businesses who are taking a proactive look, working with a lot of nonprofit providers and so forth, who are actually recognizing that, kind of thinking about fair chance employment. So thinking about, like, if someone has an arrest and no conviction or no incarceration or anything like that, that they should be treated in the appropriate way as someone who has talent that can be deployed within their work. And we're actually seeing now really strong efforts. And I can share other specific examples with organizations like Leaders Up. Chrysalis is certainly another example where we have seen people overcoming the barriers that we self-imposed in our system. So that's my most specific answer to your question. I'm happy to let others go and return to other issues later.
Thanks, Professor Painter. Okay, Frank Gerardo from BYD.
Thanks, Professor. Tracy, that's a really interesting question, because success and failure do often go hand in hand. I think at BYD, we're a manufacturer. We're in our manufacturing facilities in the Antelope Valley, and we have 600 men and women employed on a factory floor building electric buses, the kind you see Metro driving. And the success is that we have a great partnership with our union, which is the sheet metal workers, and they're based in Glendora, with the Jobs to Move America organization, which is a conglomeration of unions that are looking for opportunities to find work for various folks. And our community benefits agreement, which gives preference to hiring people who have faced traditional barriers to employment, like having been arrested or being in the system, being a single parent, being a veteran, having been homeless and having no job history. And the success stories play out on the floor of our factory all the time. And I could tell you the story of Danny Villanueva, for example, a guy who is covered in tattoos from head to toe, telling you the whole history of his gang involvement and the whole history of his involvement with the system, I think 6 times in state prison. And yet, he works for us, came to us without a job history, worked his way up from the floor into a managerial position where he manages 20 or 30 other people. So we know, Danny's not the only guy on the floor, by the way, that has this story, but we know it can be done. But Tracy, you also asked about failure. So, the failure I think that we have is that although we work very closely with our local government, and the city of Lancaster has been great, and the supervisors' offices have been great, we have a harder time telling our story to the federal government. And, it's a sad thing too, because if more people knew the value of partnership and how it can lift up a community, and you can see it in Lancaster, I think our business would become a model for success. Not something that's going to solve the whole county's homeless problem. I think we heard today there's so many different, there's a strata here that we've all heard about that's varied and complicated, but we can at least tackle a portion of it that affects, people who really want to change and do better. And I'll just add, I'll go back to success and wrap it up. I'll tell you another story. A guy named Bart Taylor. He got out of jail, came and asked us for a job, and we said, what do you know how to do? Do you know how to use the tape measure? No, don't. Do you know the metric system? No. He told us that he was willing to learn. And I asked Bart a couple months ago, well, what's your story? And he said, well, I've never really been in a house. My mom was a drug addict. We lived in apartments. We lived in hotel rooms. We lived in cars. And when I got older, that was my model. And until I got out of jail and got a girlfriend, and she told me, listen, you got to get a job if you want to stay in this relationship. She says to me, I got a job. Well, he's been at this job for a couple of years, and here's the success. He's not living in a car. He owns one. He's not going from hotel to apartment building to, unhoused situation. He and his girlfriend are buying a house in Los Angeles County. That's the power of what we can all do together when we have a partnership to lift up our community. So thanks, Tracy.
Yeah, thanks, Frank. Clint Carlton, Dream Center. Give us your thoughts of success and crash and burn.
Well, these two gentlemen have absolutely destroyed what I can say. So success, I've been around for 20 years. Of the 27 years the Dream Center's been established. Came from Kansas City, young kid, just wanting to help people out. And for the past 20 years, I've seen a lot of success. I've seen a guy named Jake Hurley that he came to us about 8 years ago living on the streets of Skid Row. And Jake Hurley spent 15 years in prison, found himself on Skid Row. A lot of times people look at Skid Row and they look at the homeless of Los Angeles and they say, those people have no shot in life. Those people do have a shot in life. Jake Hurley assisted us during COVID and fed 5.5 million people because he runs our food bank. 5.5 million people were helped during COVID because we took a chance on a guy on Skid Row. We worked with Dion Joseph, LAPD, and Dion Joseph down there, and I'll transition to failure. 20 years ago when I came, we were just trying to do it alone. And you touched on this. It's important for nonprofits, for businesses, for individuals, for us to take care of the homeless issue in Los Angeles. We've all got to work together. A year ago, I met this guy sitting here. I had no clue he was going to be on this panel today, and he walked up to me outside. Met this guy, Lieutenant. I don't know how many people we've been able to help and assist because of the LA County Sheriff's Department in the last probably year and a half to 2 years. So I think partnerships is a failure, and it's not a failure. It was a failure until we started partnering with more and more people. And then, the success are just the stories that come out of these individuals that have been experiencing homelessness and giving them the luxury of time. I think that's what we do at the Dream Center. We don't set a time that says you have to be out of this program in 6 months. You have to be out of this program in 9 months. We give them the luxury of time and saying, hey, we're gonna put you through job training. We're gonna work with different organizations and get you a job, help you out with your credit, help you out with savings. And that's what's important, is partnership and giving them the luxury of time.
Thanks, Clint. Lieutenant?
Ooh. Well, at least I figured out a way to get into USC. I think for me, this could be like a 3-hour presentation because I have so much that I want to give. But to articulate what success is I think we have to understand how I believe we got to where we are today with my organization. And I think recognizing traditional law enforcement is abhorrent towards this issue. Traditional law enforcement does not work addressing homelessness. Thus, my reason for existing in the last 10 years is the LA County Sheriff's Department was tasked back in 2015 with addressing El Nino. Remember how scary El Nino was? Every night on TV, Southern California is going to flood. And well, somebody in a meeting said, what about all the people that are homeless in the riverbeds? How are we going to get to them? What are we going to do? How did it happen? Well, you're looking at the person that walked out of that meeting in charge of that task force. And the first question I asked was, how many people are we talking about? And they said, I don't know, find out. Okay. So what we found, and the numbers change here and there, but it was roughly 900 to 1,000 people who had been in the 5 main waterways of LA County. But over the next 90 days, through trial and error, looking at different ways of connecting, is all of those people came out of the riverbed voluntarily without making any arrests and 0 uses of force. And what that did was it laid the foundational model for what today we call the host team. So in 2017, through the LA County Homeless Initiative, they invited the Sheriff's Department to have a seat at that table. And although I'm a lieutenant, I was the executive representative on that team. And so what that did was it linked me with all of the county departments in relation to this topic. And then hearing the panels earlier, I was like, man, I could add this, I could add this, and I could add this. And even with Dr. Blumenthal, he's like, I don't want to say this, but law enforcement kind of should be involved. And it's hard to say. And we recognize what happened during the George Floyd horrific murder and the civil unrest and the things that came. But what I think is we have to look through a clear lens, and that lens is reform needed. Yes, there are. But when you look at our department, 7 of those 8 recommended reforms were done prior to that incident. And then if you look at the host team and what we represent, so now I'll tell you what we are. So this is a team of highly trained in specialization, crisis stabilization techniques to interact with those experiencing homelessness throughout LA County. Every single deputy on this team was handpicked by me. They were handpicked for their maturity, their experience, their strength, their courage, and their compassion. And so our model is you will treat the janitor the way you would treat the president. And its foundational principles are making sure that we all should, as a course of action, adhere to the law, adhere to the constitutional principles, but we look at the humanity of it. Compassion, dignity, rapport building. Each of us have a way of connecting with somebody. And if you take the time genuinely to do it, you will find that it works. If you're in a hurry I need to get out of here by 2 and are you homeless? What do you need? That doesn't work. I sit in a bucket in the encampment and all heck's breaking around me. And the guy's like, you took the time to talk to us. And I'm very honored to have Dr. Roberto Mazzina, who I think you maybe introduced to you earlier, the former director of mental health from Trieste. He's here with me. That doesn't happen. If you look at the table that I'm sitting at, you have Carrie from Heart LA, right? Or I said the name wrong. Dr. Pietro D'Angelo, my chief, and a psychologist from Italy with law enforcement. And so what we found was this model, 1, is authentic. And 2, because it's grounded in humanity and validating each person. To me, it's a human rights issue. Because allowing someone to degrade and to die on the street is not okay. That's not compassionate. So what are we going to do about it? And so we engage. And someone earlier mentioned, I think it was Dr. Blumenthal, about not just moving people around. We totally agree. That's a failure. So engage where they are, fix the problem. So how do you fix it? On our level, we address it, we stratify the population. Every single person, when we meet them, we find out who they are, where they came from, where their parents. Everybody is someone's son or daughter. And so when you take the time to find out what happened in high school, what happened in college, there's a study that shows 30% have bachelor's degrees. And there's different studies out there. But when you take the time to find out, now I can address your individual needs. Because if I have a mental health counselor talking to somebody who needs a job, we're wasting both people's time. The person that just needs a job because of economic issues need to be talking to him to get workforce development and to get a job. But someone who's suffering from acute mental illness, they need to be talking to my partner, Anna Denise Breeze, from our MET team. So how do we do that? They have to be with us. Here's the difference. The LA County Sheriff model is the host team, which is highly specialized outreach deputies with a civilian outreach team from the Los Angeles Homeless Services Authority embedded in our team. We are now attached to our mental evaluation team. So when we go, you have all of this in one. So if someone presents in need and they're willing to accept help, they get in the car and they get it right now. We don't make appointments. So that's how you break down the bureaucratic barriers that I was hearing earlier. And I don't want to go too long, but hopefully I can get to more later. But it comes down to the humanity and empowering deputy sheriffs to understand that being compassionate, it doesn't make you weak. Because society and law enforcement, like I said, I've been a cop since I was 20. As they celebrate the arrest of the gang member, the gun, the kilo, and the rifle. But if I'm there with, hey, look, I helped somebody today get housing, and then my failure is this. How many people prior to me talking, other than Mr. Mayor, knew about the host team? Sad. There's the failure. The political environment and the social environment here has contributed to the most successful program, not only in LA County, but in the country. Because, and I think I told you, I didn't actually. Through all this time since El Nino, the LA County Sheriff Host Team has never used force and never made an arrest. 0. In our LA County Homeless Encampment Protocol, 100% success. None of you know about it. And to me, that's sad, but that's a failure of mine. And so I think as we go forward, hopefully we can share those. But to conclude, empowering deputies to be compassionate and then not frowned upon as weakness then makes them stronger. So now we've already trained over 4,000 deputies along with our MET partners in the department on using the host model. So thank you.
Thanks, Lieutenant. Powerful. All right, Mark Lawrenter from Chrysalis.
Well, I'm loving being on this panel. I'm not loving going last after all those great stories. I mean, you're hearing about humanity. You're hearing about dignity. You're hearing about the gift of time. You're hearing about the success stories that are possible. And that's why we do the work we do at Chrysalis. We work with folks that are facing systemic barriers to employment and help them get back on their pathway, the one that they define, not that we define for them, the one that they want. But there are things standing in the way. We've talked about a bunch of them today. The folks that we work with have co-occurring stuff going on. They may be experiencing homelessness, and by the way, that's the number one cause of folks that enter homelessness for the first time is loss of a job or other major economic disruption. They may have interactions with the justice system. They may have drug or other issues that they're dealing with, but you mix all that together, it just makes it tough. They're ready, willing, and able to go back to work, but they just don't know how quite to do it. One of the parts of our program that is the most visible and that we're proud of is our employment social enterprises. Today is payday at our organization. We have 4 businesses that we own and operate. 625 of our clients are getting paid today, minimum wage or above. And they're working real jobs. These aren't just make work jobs. These are real jobs, including contracts like with Suzanne Hawley from the Downtown Center Business Improvement District. We do their cleaning and maintenance work, for example. But the point of these businesses is not just to get money in the hands of our clients and a job. It's to give them that gift of time, to get stable, to understand what it means to show up every day, to be coached around some mistakes, to get a paycheck, and then what do you do with it other than taking it to the corner check cashing place? All of that stuff many of us have done for a long, long time. A lot of our clients have never had the opportunity to do that. So that's why we do that part of our program, and we consider that a success. But if I have to think about where we have missed the mark and where we got to get better, I've heard a number of times today things about it's just so damn complicated. Why is it so complicated? And we're guilty of that ourselves. Our program has not always used human-centered design. You come to our office, you wait, you see a case manager, you fill out some. Why do we make people jump through so many hoops? So we're intensively looking at that ourselves. But I would also suggest for the business community, we place people in permanent jobs. That's really what we want to do, right? The hiring process for the folks that we serve to wait and go through ridiculous administrative processes that many large organizations have, it just filters them out automatically on top of the ban-the-box stuff that really doesn't work, and we can talk more about that. But I would just challenge all of us, don't just blame government, just don't blame systems that are complicated. I think all of us make our structures and our systems way too complicated. Let's just do the right thing and try to cut out the BS as much as we can. If we cut out the BS, maybe we should use that as our watchword. I think we can make change.
I picked up a few things. This is a best practices panel. We're going to do 2 questions in 10 minutes with all 5 of you answering. So we did 1 question and we did an hour and a half or whatever that was just a minute ago. But we're going to go quickly now. But one thing I want to point out to everyone when we talk about buzzwords, what was your buzzword you just gave? What'd you say?
Cut out the BS.
We're going to cut out the BS. All right. The other thing I heard on the earlier panel was we're going to make it easy for people or organizations to do what they really want and need to do rather than not, and some of the things why we did successes and failures right now, and you heard a lot of tangible things, and the lieutenant was saying, we're doing stuff and no one knows, and then people, like you were saying, Casey, I don't even know what to do. So let's hold on to the fact that we are sharing intel. There are good things happening. That's why you're here today. A part of BizFed Institute will share this far and wide. People are streaming. We're going to be on social. There's a lot of follow-up and a lot of media work, and we'll be connecting all of you to each other. And I think Casey said, just tell me one thing I can do today, right? So I'm going to pivot. Now, it's going to be hard for you guys, I can tell already. So we're going to go quick. But one tangible thing that any of the, just like make it human. I liked how Carrie did this too, by the way. One of the buzzwords is we're going to have the ball and the rubber bands. I'll forever remember that. That's so brilliant to bring it up. You unpeel the rubber bands and the ball is the person. Did you like how everyone spoke about a person that they helped? So they're already uncoupling, Carrie. They're listening to you. They're already making it. They pulled the ball out of the center, the person. You're already on that. And the rubber bands are there. So one tangible example of a local investment in time, money, or resources that you've seen get people off the street. Just give one thing, and I'm going to start at the other end and go this way. All right, Mark first. This way, one tangible time or money investment that you saw get people off the streets.
It's a little wonky, but it's a thing called LA Rise, the Los Angeles Social Enterprise something, something, something. It works with folks like us and with all of you, employers, to make that connection to offer the supports and the pathway to a real living wage job. It's helped over 2,000 people in its span. I think it's a great investment in taxpayer resources.
LA Rise, it's called. Okay, great. Lieutenant?
No, and for me, it's about collaborations and being concise with the time that we have here. I didn't really focus on that, but we've collaborated with over 1,000 entities in the time that I've been on the host team. And what comes to mind for this question is Jason Schneidman. If you don't know who that is, you should. Jason Schneidman was a homeless addict in Venice who's now the celebrity barber, and he runs the Men's Groomer Foundation. He went with us to a homeless encampment, brought 20 other barbers, brought a barber truck. We did a connect day. First person's hair he cut is now in rehab in his 6th month.
That's awesome.
So
all right, so.
Those innovative collaborations, because everyone say, well, there's no rule. I said, screw the rules. If it's legal, it's moral, it's just, and it feels right, do it. We're so caught up with approvals and policies that you wonder why we have a problem, and that's it. Every single person in this room today has said bureaucratic red tape, policies, barriers, challenges. So us for the host team, if it's legal, moral, ethical, and it feels right, we do it.
All right.
So we work with the Department of Children and Family Services, DCFS, and we become the caseworkers, and we have an outreach called foster care intervention. And what that is families that are going to lose their children because of poverty reasons, not because of abuse or neglect, it's because of poverty issues. We become the caseworkers of a lot of these families. I'd like to invite you out to come join us. No, I'm talking to you, yeah. We go out at 9 o'clock and 1 o'clock from the Dream Center Monday through Friday, and we build bunk beds, we build dressers, we clean their houses. We get them to a place that we can close their cases. And so it's 9 o'clock and 1 o'clock, Monday through Friday. It's called Foster Care Intervention, and love for you to join us.
Thanks, Claire. Frank.
Great. I'll be quick. So the Antelope Valley Dream Center, I don't know if they're connected with you. That's good. They have helped people get off the street. And in fact, the director has been by our place many times and knows people that work for us and is happy to see that they're successful, largely thanks to the help that they received at the Dream Center. So doing great work.
Thanks, Frank. Professor Gary Painter.
Yeah, and I'll just say, okay, we're on. Okay. I'll just say Project Room Key is an obvious win. We learned that if there was an empty unit, and in this case, focusing on motels and hotels during the pandemic, that was not being occupied by a tourist, and there's someone who's experiencing homelessness, or was in a congregate shelter that needed to kind of de-densify because of COVID risks, that you could actually put someone in it. What happens then, you might ask, if you have no more empty units? How about if we build some more? And we're so slowly starting to turn the tide after 50 years of trying to shrink. Do you mind if I just ask the audience one thing?
Go for it.
All right. How many people here know how many housing units LA was zoned for in 1960? Does anybody know? Yes. 10 million. Over 20 years, that was shrunk to 4.5 million. Until SB 9 was passed that kind of removed the exclusion of single family only, now we have the ability to do more, but now we're largely built out and we know how expensive it is to kind of reuse and so forth. So we need to be thinking ahead. First, house the people like Project Roomkey did. If there's an empty unit, put someone in it and then support them with the services. And if you run out of units, make sure more units are being built in your community. So that's what was said earlier. Send the letters, vote accordingly, saying, I want my unhoused neighbors to have units in my community.
And Professor Painter, I'm going to thank you for asking that question, but also teeing me up to give you something that's working through BizFed right now. We present policy, and there's a senator in our region, Senator Portantino is his name. He is like Glendale and Pasadena in that area. He's carrying a bill this session called Senate Bill 15. And what it does is, like the ones you were just mentioning, taking existing unused commercial properties, so some big box retail with the pandemic and so on, people are all buying online, so retailers aren't using as big of facilities, and so every city in our region has some, vacated big box retail that's just sitting there vacant. Small, medium-sized retail strip centers are half housed now with businesses, and they're vacant. But all those cities already have zoned commercial services. They already have the sewer, they already have the parking, they have the lighting, they have everything that's needed because it was going for business. So this bill will repurpose in an expedited way, help the mayors and the council people say yes to housing, to put workforce housing in those strip centers, in those big box retail, close to the jobs that they're going to go to. It's a fast way to reuse retail and make it city friendly and get people in affordable housing, SB 15. So be an activist and call your senator or your assembly person and tell them yes to that. So thank you on Roomkey, and the governor and others are leaning in to keep funding that effort, right? Is there anything open on that we need to activate?
Well, it's worth noting that Project Homekey funds, which is to actually allow nonprofits or cities to actually buy such properties, not just hotels and motels, but also commercial spaces. It needs a bill like SB 15 to expedite it, because what could happen is that instead of the relatively low cost housing relative to kind of building from scratch that we've seen, that we saw with Project Roomkey and early Project Homekey of like $200,000 a door or $300,000. If you don't expedite it, then you're going to cause the reuse cost to go up so much that then we're back to $500,000. So it's really critical. So there's money there in Project Homekey for actually funding exactly that if you just make it accessible.
Great. And SB 9, let's not, Suzanne was saying earlier that she got a proposal in 3 pages. There were 23 acronyms that she didn't know, and so she needed a glossary of terms so she could sort it out. So I also say no one knows a bill number or anything else. So when you just mentioned SB 9, tell everyone real quick what that does so they can implement it.
So it eliminates exclusionary single-family zoning. I think I may have just said it just so quickly. So what does that actually mean? It doesn't mean that we have to rip down our single-family homes or get rid of them. It just says that now it's possible, if you wanted to build a duplex instead of a single-family home, or in some case you could build up to a fourplex instead of a single-family home. So it just kind of moves the exclusion. It doesn't change how people might want to live in their neighborhoods or those kinds of things.
Okay, I'm going to squeeze one more question, and then we're going to go to the audience, and you guys are going to have a chance either online or in the room. So lightning round, I'm going to start with Clint. We're going to go to the middle, go right, and then back. Okay. Are there any examples where businesses have made it their business to formulate and execute strategies aimed toward lowering poverty?
Yeah, I mean, I jump back to through COVID when we fed 5.5 million people. We had 2 days of food when the shutdown started and people started losing money and not being able to work. And we had businesses, Justin Turner from the Dodgers jumped in and called so many restaurants because restaurants wanted to keep their employees working. And so Justin said, hey, is there any way you can help us feed 1,000 people today? And so Justin got on the phone calling businesses all around Los Angeles, going to pick up the food himself. And so all these businesses rallied with us to help feed 5.5 million people.
Thanks.
So that's what I saw.
That's good. All right, Lieutenant, quickly.
I do know there was a company, and there is a company that's a recycling company, and I'm blanking on the name right now, but he partnered with an organization similar to Chrysalis to where they were taking people who were experiencing homelessness, connecting with a provider, and then he offered them a job. And in doing so, he then held them, and what he found was the more successful they became was the more he held them accountable. And so quite often out there, we see that when you ask someone about what they want and to get their dignity back, it's that job. So we do have local businesses. I want to announce them right now because it hasn't started yet. There are many local businesses coming to the host team saying, I need workers. Can you help us? Because if law enforcement's involved, you have kind of that vetting process per se, where you know that a candidate might be qualified. So we're seeing now businesses coming to the host team to increase their workforce.
That's great. Mark.
We work with hundreds of employers, but I'll give a spotlight to one. Chef Curtis Stone, he's a celebrity chef. You may be familiar with him. He's got a couple of high-end restaurants in town. He hired one of our guys 5 years ago just because he came to one of our fundraising events and he felt guilty. This one guy has led to 20 hires at his restaurants, and he says these are the hardest working, most dedicated employees he has. And it has also changed the culture in the restaurant when they sit together for family meal, and you've got the actor, actress wannabes, right, that work in that business in Hollywood, sitting next to folks that they literally may have stepped over a month before. It's changed the culture in his restaurants in a good way.
That's great. Frank?
I have to shout out BYD. We do our best to help people that live in our community. We, not just, lip service, but we do make an effort to bring people in who face these barriers. And we do it largely in partnership with our union and with the Antelope Valley Dream Center. So that's my shout out.
Great. Gary?
So there are some employers, they're mostly the larger ones, but we've done surveys in 2015 and 2021 that have showed that the business community is recognizing how much the fact that their employees are precariously housed, so many of them, especially support teams and staffs, that it's actually impacting their bottom line. We got to do something about it. And we have seen, for instance, LAUSD, tried building some housing on some land. They closed down some schools because they didn't have the population. They built some housing. They said, this is exactly what we've been talking about, have teachers and, living close to where they teach. In fact, it wasn't teachers who ended up wanting to live there, but it was the support staff. There's an incredible number of support staff. They might be earning only $30,000, $40,000 in annual income. We know that that's not enough to pay the rent. And so this was a huge success in terms of actually supporting critical infrastructure at LAUSD. We just need more.
Good. Questions, you guys? We're coming out to the audience. Denise is ready to bring the microphone. Just raise your hand. Denise, right behind you.
Looking at this from an outsider's perspective, I see a lot of outputs versus outcomes. It seems like we're generating a lot of great outputs and not necessarily the outcomes that we want. Do you see a scenario where we can do this backwards? And the previous panel commented on this. If we can decide on the outcomes and then work our way back to what kind of outputs do we need to achieve those outcomes?
I'll address that real quick. So Dr. Pietro, that's the exact question I asked him before we came up here. To me, I deal with outcomes, because to say I gave someone services 10 times to me is a waste of a comment. What I want to say is, I got him off the streets, he got help, he got mental health help. And I think when you look at systems in LA County, they're based on outputs, not outcomes. So the host model, we do base that on outcomes, but it depends on how that data is to be captured.
Anyone else want to comment real quick?
Well, I'll just say that some of the outcomes, and this is something that you have to define, then what is the metric associated with it, is that I don't want to see people who are, know that they're one paycheck away from losing their apartment, from not being able to feed their families. And we did a survey in South and Central Los Angeles, and we asked people, if you had a $400 bill, how would you pay it? And 80% said that we would, beg, borrow, and, maybe beg again, the family members, friends, and so forth. 20% of people said, I have maxed out everything. I don't have that. So to me, the outcome is I don't want people facing critical choices between food, medical care, and housing in order to just experience life in this wonderful city. So that's the outcome. So then how do you get there? Well, you do have to think about the systems. You have to think about what is or isn't the safety net, what is or isn't our employment system, what are the barriers that are there, and then you can start to, as you said, go, okay, this is my North Star, and then I'm going to aim at it.
Another question. Denise, right over here. Marcel? Wait, Denise, oh, there we go. Alicia. Please, remember to introduce yourself when you ask a question. It's always fun to see who's here.
Marcel Wilson here, campaign manager for... Hello? Can you hear me? Okay. Campaign manager for Mel Wilson, running for mayor. My question is to the lieutenant. How large is the host team, and do you guys work with any collaboration with LAPD into helping them do the same kind of thing as you in the city? Because I know you guys, I'm not sure if your jurisdiction reaches in the areas that it's not just covered by the county.
Well, thank you for your question. So it's a unique issue here. So the LA County Sheriff Host Team, the national model, is funded for 4 deputies for the entire county of Los Angeles. Sheriff Villanueva said that was ridiculous, so he gave me 22 additional bodies. So I have 26 deputy sheriffs, but only 4 are funded from the county. We're looking at additional resources now because we were also just tasked with staffing and manning the high fire danger zone areas on the coast, but we don't have additional personnel. So yes, we work with LAPD. Billy Brockway is their commander, that's the director of homelessness. However, all of his teams were defunded, so you don't have a team anymore. So LAPD does not have a homeless outreach team. Their model was similar to ours, but not ours. That's why we said we were the only one, because we had the co-response model where our civilian outreach is embedded. And I'm telling you, the civilian outreach team that's working with us, they're our heroes, because they developed that relationship with the deputy and the relationship with the people in the encampment, that group together says collectively we have to have success, which means letting them transition off the streets into help. And so that's the beauty of the process. We do work collaboratively, but most of the time it's communication. You know, recently you've heard, oh, the Hollywood and this and that. We talk to them every day. We communicate. LA County is our jurisdiction. Obviously, LAPD has the primary law enforcement responsibility within the city, but we would help them at a moment's notice. But we do work collaboratively.
Great, thank you for that. I am aware of time. We're going to take one last question from the audience, or did we have anyone online? I'm just doing a check-in for a question, so we can take one more from the audience. And oh, there we go, great. Be sure to introduce yourself.
I'm AJ, Galka-Gonyeau. Thank you for letting me.
Superstar panelist is what you're supposed to say.
I'm curious because I'm hearing so much amazing work, and I kind of heard a theme that there's so much stuff going on, but a lot of us don't hear it, like your stats. I'm curious if there's a way to take what is gathered in this room or the successes that have been shared, the work that Chrysalis is doing, the university's doing, the PD, Dream Center, and so forth, and how we can put that out there. Because I think taking the momentum from this discussion and sharing these stories and successes is step one. But then step two, I believe, as you mentioned about educating the community and giving the consumer a voice. Our homeless folks, giving their story, sharing their experience, getting hired by a company and becoming manager. There's so many great things here. So I hope somewhere we take that and manifest it up.
I'll jump in, AJ, real quick, because Kevin Harbour's made arrangements with Julia Dang, who's in the back of the room. Julia can wave her hand. So that's the assignment from today is video, audio, and written summary of everyone who has presented. And we're going to take away, because remember the headline, Solution Focus Summit. So now the next thing we have to do is share the solutions. So we'll share it with everyone who, we invited, actually thousands of people to participate. You saw some people did the poll. Some people showed up today and online. Some people just connected to us online via email, and we'll have social networks. All of our speakers, I believe, committed to us to share those recaps with your networks afterwards too, right? So that's what I understood. So it's a big force multiplier in the room so that we can put this out to one another and then, lean in on those successes and get more people to embrace them. The other thing we'll do is media, right? Because all of you work hard on that, and we need to get media attention to these successes that have been mentioned and the failures or the scruffed up knees, whatever, of trying. It's all right. We learn from all of this. The diversity of the minds here are important. Now, we do have lunch ready for everyone, so it's my job to keep us on time. I would love to, I actually have like 7 more questions. We didn't get there, but I'm not going to stop you from having a nice lunch. USC's done a really great job of preparing that for us. It's buffet, which makes it fun. So you can grab your lunch, you can visit with each other. We have about 20 minutes because we have to keep going. There's some important parts of our program. And I want to remind you, when we come back from lunch, listen for that, because we're going to start our lunch. We do presentations right through lunch, because we'll get you out of here at 1:30 today so you can enjoy the rest of your Friday or get on with your weekend. Matt Klink from California Strategies is going to guide us through a presentation about a ballot measure that is coming up with major impacts for those of us in Los Angeles County. So Unite to House LA will join us next in our lunch speaker series, and you'll want to learn about that. Matt might tell you about one ballot measure that was on and now it's been pulled, but there is still another one we'll all be voting on. So panelists, thank you so much. You gave us a lot of good intel.